In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a chrysanthemum sugar flower. So for the centre, I'm using a polystyrene bud, which I've turned the other way around, opposite to a rose. Alternatively, you can use a polystyrene ball. Pre-colour your paste to whatever colour flower you want to create, and then roll out a piece of paste really thin. I'm using the smallest cutter out of the three daisy gerber cutter set, and just make sure you get a really nice clean cut. Once you've got it on your pad, then just soften all the edges on every one of the petals. As you can see here, I'm using the ball tool to pull the petals back a bit so that they will slightly cup when they're on the bud. So with edible glue, just push into the centre and then out to the tip of every single one of the petals. Once you've got it attached to the bud, then just make sure that you cover the whole of the bud. Try not to misshape the petals, but you can stretch them a little bit to cover the top of that bud. Now cut another one from the medium size cutter. And then just follow the same procedure as with the first cutout. Soften the edges of the petal in the same way as the first one, but really make sure you pay attention to pulling that ball tool back from the tip of the petal to make sure you get that little bit of a lift on every single tip, because that's going to really help shape the flower. So place this petal on top of the first. As you can see, I'm just trying to keep the petals separate. And then what you're doing is you're attaching them all the way around, but you're not really attaching the very top. You're just leaving it a tiny little bit loose. So now you cut the third petal again using that medium cutter. And as you can see here, I am stretching each petal slightly more. And from this point onwards, you're going to want to put a crease down the centre of every single tiny petal. So I'm just using the Dresden tool gently to form that crease. I'm now just softening the centre just so it sits onto the bud better. I'm pushing glue onto about 3/4 of each petal. So turning the bud upside down, I'm just letting this set of petals just hang there, trying to keep the petals as separate as I can, and then as I dry it, I'm just going to dry it upside down. So with the fourth and fifth layer of petals, I'm just going to soften them, stretch them, crease them in exactly the same way as I did with the third. Again, I've used the medium-sized cutter. I'm softening the centres again. So this also allows the petals to cup a little bit more once they're on the bud. And this time I'm going to brush the glue directly onto the back of the bud. So turning the bud upside down, just attaching it and allowing it to sort of drop naturally around the bud. Just teasing out any petals that have turned over or got trapped, and then just gently easing it on, trying not to press too much, because this is where it really starts to open up now. Again, I'm going to continue to dry it between each layer upside down. Now this time I'm turning it the right way up and then just lowering the bud down to the petals and then quickly flipping it over. This is now the sixth layer of petals, and I've moved on to the larger cutter. Just going to follow exactly the same process as I have done for the last few petals. So I'm just cutting, shaping and forming the 7th and 8th row of petals. So when adding these onto the flower, again trying to secure them at the base and trying not to close them on, leaving them as loose as they will sit, and then of course hanging them upside down. As you can see, they're looking nice and open. This is now the 9th and 10th set of petals. I have stretched them just a little bit more than the previous ones. At this point it does start getting a little bit trickier, trying to keep the petals separate and nice and neat. Again, just concentrating on pressing only on the base of the flower. I'm going to finish at this point, but of course you can carry on and fill the flower a bit more and add a couple of more layers of petals if you want to. I'm now shaping a piece of foil into a little holder, and then I'm just piercing the centre of the foil so that the wire can go through and the flower can sit into this little holder. This will allow me to arrange the petals and they will stay in place while they are drying. Now to make the calyx, I'm just going to cut out a couple of the small pieces from the small calyx cutter. I'm using the ball tool just to soften each section of that calyx on both pieces. And then I'm just gluing them together. So I'll just glue these now onto the base of the flower. So for the stem, it needs to be slightly thicker than smaller flowers because it's quite a large flower, so it needs a nice thick stem. So I'm just taping on an extra couple of pieces of the 18 gauge wire and just taping that on, and I'll add another layer of tape and just thicken it out. Instead of using the extra wire, you can actually just thicken it out with some kitchen towel and then add the green tape on top of that if you would prefer. Now to colour the flower, I'm just starting with a nice dark green dust and just starting with a calyx. So for colouring the flower, I'm using a nice bright orange, just starting with the outer petals. I'm starting with the tips of the petals and then just working the colour down. Now to add a deeper colour into the centre, I've mixed a nice deep red with the orange, and then I'm just concentrating on the centre and making sure that's completely covered. And now I'm using the same mix of red and orange onto the back of the petals. And to finish the flower off, I will now steam the colour in. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to subscribe to see more tutorials.